Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode one of the Bottom Line on Sports. I'm Jean-Jacques Taylor. He's Jeremy Pink. What are we talking about today, bro?
Hey, man, we are looking at things at the intersection of sports and money. We're looking at three topics today. We're looking at what's happening with NIL right now. We're looking at private equity potentially entering college football. And we're looking at your boy, Dak Prescott, and the big money that he's getting. So, big topics today. Your boy, Dak. I know you got for those of you who don't know, Jacques is a well-known in Dallas, well-known Cowboys guy, was a sports columnist for the Dallas Morning News for many years.
Dude, so check this out. I'm looking at the athlete. Actually, I'm looking on Twitter today, and somebody puts a post up that says, "Is Arch Manning college football's first flop?" We're talking about the Texas quarterback, nephew of Eli and Peyton Manning. And one of my best friends, who's a Texas grad, retweets it and says, "This is crazy. The kid doesn't deserve this." Au contraire, mon frere. So check this out, man. I've told people this was going to happen. There was, as somebody who's been a reporter for 30 years, if you're covering high school sports and somebody commits a fumble at the goal line and they lose the game, you go, Taylor High School fumbled at the 1 yard line and the other team ran out the clock and won the game. Because that kid's in high school, he's not a pro, he doesn't deserve all the stuff that comes
By the
with
way, as
fumbling.
an aside, did you know I made that mistake at the Columbus Dispatch?
Oh no.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I ran. It was a soccer match. I remember the guy's name. I won't say it here. It was a soccer game.
Well, if he hadn't gotten over it by now, he needs more
Yeah,
therapy.
well, that's true. But it was a soccer game, and I mentioned his name, and I got a call from his parents the
Yeah.
next day at the dispatch because I
I,
mentioned his name, and they said exactly what you did, which is you don't mention the name, just mention the school.
right. If it's some faux pas or something like
Yeah,
that. Now if he scores a touchdown, great. Let's praise him. In college, we've always said, Bill Smith fumbled at the 1 yard line and you leave it alone. There's not really anything critical because again, these are college kids. They're not professionals. Now what are they? They're basically professionals.
hmm
And so if I'm paying you, Arch Manning, pick a number, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, to play quarterback at the University of Texas, now when you don't play well, there's no, well, he's a college kid, cut him some slack. It's, dog, you make all this paper. You need to play better. And that to me is one of the biggest things that's going to happen in college football because you get stories like this. I mean, if he was just a quote 5-star quarterback, there wouldn't be, is he a flop? It'd just be, hey, here's the list of 5-star quarterbacks who haven't worked out for whatever reason. And you throw him in that category over there. Now, though, the money changes everything. And that's why we do this show, because everything, sooner or later, when you think about it, when you talk about it, it always gets back to money. And this is no different. And now, how about this, man? Can they make a move at quarterback? Because they got so much money invested in this dude.
right. It's not dissimilar to you have a first round pick. You're going to
Yes.
ride that first round pick because the organization has invested so much in that first round of that top three pick if you choose a quarterback in one of those top three picks. The interesting thing about Arch Manning specifically is that On Three does an estimate of which players in college football the NIL is worth the most, and Arch Manning tops them all at $5 million. But his value, according to On Three, has declined sharply this year already in terms of their estimates. So
Well,
that'll just show you. Now, I don't know if that cost him money specifically. That's just an estimate of the value of his NIL, his
right.
name, image, and likeness. And he's already working with a number of companies. Whether Warby Parker is probably the most famous one that people are aware of, which is the glasses company. And what do they do now too? Do they stick with him? Do they not stick with him? What do their contracts say? This is a very tricky decision. And the hard thing too is, although they're effectively professional athletes, Arch Manning's still 21 years old,
Right.
and he's got to endure this. But that's what happens when you get paid. It changes. The
It
nature of the
changes.
beast changes.
No, and most people, and I say this like, it to me. like when you're playing a football game and a little screen pops up with analytics and it goes, "Hey, this coach is dumb because it was a 74% chance for him to win the game if he does this."
Right.
What do the analytics never ever discuss? The 26% that if you fail and you lose and everybody calls you a dummy. And so we talk about NIL all the time. Hey, this guy got $1 million. Hey, this quarterback now is their quarterbacks in general get $2 million. This guy got a 3-year contract. We always talk about the positive, but the negative is right here. Now I'm not mad at them because they got paid, but I don't know if they all realize what comes with getting paid. And we haven't even talked about social media where people are
Right.
just blowing you up because you were favored by however many points and you didn't cover the spread because of what they feel is your performance. And so now in their minds, you cost them money.
Right.
And it's it's a cesspool out there, man. And there's a reason why they say money is the root of all evil. Now we all like it, we all want it, we all need it,
Right.
but it always comes with a price.
Yeah, it's really fascinating looking at Arch Manning because if you actually watch him play, I always question, is he struggling because he's just not that good, or is he struggling because he's got so much pressure on him, and not a small amount of that pressure is due from the amount of money that he's making and what he has to deliver, not just to himself, but to the school, to the boosters, to his family. And I think money puts a different level of pressure on you, especially
It,
if you're a 21-year-old college kid.
I would say this: it puts an additional level of pressure because you already had some pressure being a Manning. You already had some pressure being the quarterback at the University of Texas. Now you throw the money element; it's just more of it. Um, Arch Manning, man, and I've watched almost every snap he's played this year.
I'm
Right
really,
now,
really sorry to hear that. Yeah.
right now, at this moment, today, he's the epitome of a coach killer because he will do some things in the game where you go, "Oh, that right there,
Sure.
oh, if we got that, we're going to the national championship." And then he'll do some other stuff, and you go, "The hell was that? What are you doing?" And it's those flashes that make you say, "Man, if we could just get those flashes with regular play, we got a championship." And you can get fired waiting for them flashes to come and put the whole package together. And so right now, that's what he is. And I think you're right, man. I think he's playing tight, which is why you can flex on Sam Houston State and look like you looked against Florida. And that's not all his fault. But I ain't trying to hear that either because why? We know from jump the quarterback gets all the women and all the money and all the glory and all the blame. It's been like that since Mike Tomczak was throwing footballs at Ohio State.
Mike Tomczak, name from the past. But the thing about Arch, if you actually analyze Arch's background, he didn't play at one of the big school. He didn't play high school football at one of the big schools in Texas.
Dude.
You know, he this is really his first time in real major competition. And it's like, if you have ever had kids who've played, basketball, AAU basketball, you might
Yes,
be good on your town team, you might be good on your county team, but boy, when you start going up levels, you may not be as good as you thought. And I'm not suggesting that's happening with Arch, but
I
I do
am.
think but I do think the step up in quality from his high school level to playing at the University of Texas, let alone starting the season against Ohio State away in your first sort of real meaningful start where you're the savior, you're the team leader, you're the one who's going to lead them to the championship. He had a couple of starts last year. I think he's being exposed because he just doesn't have the experience at this level.
Dude, here's the deal, man. And I would love somebody's going to do this. If he continues to stumble, somebody's going to do this because it's a story out there to be written or told visually, however. But and the story would be the making of Arch Manning. Meaning, you talk about the competition that he played in high school. But then what do the best quarterbacks do in the country? They go to Pink's camp. They go to Taylor's camp. They
Hmm.
go to Nike's camp.
Hmm.
They go to the Elite 11 competition. He didn't do any of that. And so as you look back, you go, what was the reason they gave back then for him not doing that? Because now it looks like one way to build the legend is I never get exposed. It's like boxers. I can build a record of 28-0 and 26 knockouts. Maybe I fought an aging champion in his 50s
Hmm.
and I put him down on my list of the KO.
Hmm.
And then I fought some other guy, but I can put together a boxing list that has me fighting for a championship. And I've really never done anything
Hmm.
to really earn it, deserve it. I
Hmm.
manufactured it. And so the more he struggles, the more you wonder, did they manufacture the quarterback? Not that he doesn't have talent and stuff, but did they protect him and shield him and move him in such a way that he never had any competition, even throwing competitions against the other best quarterbacks. He never played in any of those high level 7-on-7 camps.
Hmm.
You never saw him. It was all just whispers and hey, look at our tape. Well, your tape is you your boy Gulliver against a bunch of Lilliputians.
Yeah, the other way to look at it, I don't disagree with you on that at all. I think that's a major factor here. The other way to look at it is he's also probably never been through any sort of meaningful adversity or
Yes.
anything that's particularly negative. So you can look at it this way to say, okay, there's a couple of things that I think are going to happen from this. Number one, he's got no chance of going pro next year now. So he's going to
Right.
stay in school. He's going to stay in school for another year. He might have stayed in school anyway,
I think
but
so.
he's going to stay in school for another year. That's number one. He can use this year to kind of work through the adversity. He's going to get sort of a crash course in adversity, in high level competition uh, this year that he probably should have received over the last 4 to 5 years. And he's going
Right.
to get that crash course this year. Well, there's two things that could happen. He could emerge from this stronger and better, or he could emerge from it and he's just not that good. I just don't think we know yet.
No, that here's the deal, man. I've talked to many, many coaches over the years, and I've said, hey, how come this 5-star didn't work out? And a lot of times the answer is when they don't work out, a lot of times it's because they were at a lower level competition,
Mm-hmm.
they couldn't handle it. Sometimes it's, and they say this with offensive and defensive linemen a lot. Okay, you've been an offensive lineman your whole life, and you're finally up there against another 5-star, but this time you're going up in practice, you're a 5-star freshman, and you're going up against a junior who's all conference, and he picks you up and throws you somewhere, and it's the first time anybody has ever picked you up and tossed you somewhere, and mentally your confidence is shot because you're like, oh, I thought I was good. This guy just whooped my ass the whole practice. And you can't, your confidence becomes so shot that you can just never get it back, which goes to the adversity thing. And so I think a lot of what Arch is feeling now is because he looks tentative when he plays. It's like I see it, much like boxers who can't throw their hands in a fight because you're overthinking. Like I
Mm-hmm.
see it,
Mm-hmm.
and by the time you go, am I seeing what I really see? It ain't there no more. And now you're sacked, you're overthrown it, you've thrown it low, you've thrown it high.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so the only way to me to survive that is really basic. You just have to fight your way through it.
Yeah, I
Like there
think
ain't no
that's
magic pill and can't nobody do it for you.
yeah, I think he's got no choice. What you said is also, what I've noticed is that he misses a lot of the easy throws. And
Yeah.
the easy throws are the throws when you have time to think about it. Okay. He's made
Right.
some very good throws where he's, extemporaneous. He's outside the pocket. He's got to make a quick decision. He doesn't have time to think about it. So it's a pretty interesting watch of Arch Manning. All of that said, he's making so much money right now. He's going to create generational wealth potentially just by staying at Texas for 3 to 4 years.
True.
That I can't feel too bad for Arch,
No.
uh, but I do think he's going to have to figure his way by the end of this year, whether he gets through it and he comes out stronger, or he gets through it and he's just not very good. And I don't know. I can't really tell.
No. that's a good segue to this other part that I wanted to talk about.
We should talk. What's your bottom line just on the whole Arch situation first before we go?
Bottom line on Arch is I don't know. I think the bottom line is that I don't know. I don't know who he is yet, other than right now he's a certified coach killer.
My bottom line for Arch is he's going to be one of the original poster children of what happens to some athletes when they get big NIL money. And does that create more pressure on them or less pressure on them? And I think it's just going to be a new type of pressure that's emerging for a lot of college athletes right now.
Well, see, here's another guy who fits in the same category, except it's a different category. It's Oregon running back Mekhi Hughes, who transferred from Tulane after a 1,300-yard season and a 1,500-yard season. He got $700,000 to go play at Oregon. Now, who doesn't want to go play? Who doesn't want to go leave Conference USA, go play in the Big Ten, go play for Oregon in all them snazzy uniforms, and have a chance to compete for a national title? Except guess what? Through 4
Yeah.
games, he had 17 carries and 70 yards. He wasn't good enough.
He can't even climb up the depth chart at Oregon.
Nah,
Yeah.
he's stuck. And so I heard a lot of people say, see, that's what happens when you take that big money and you should have stayed his butt at Tulane. And I'm like, 700,000, man. It's 700,000. And to me, that's the good part of NIL, which is, hey, I tried to take a step up in competition, and guess what? Maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was, but I got this 700,000 here, and guess what I can do if it don't work out at Oregon? I can go transfer somewhere else and collect another check.
That's right. And what this really is to me is this is the equivalent of a free agent move in the NFL, right? This is Oregon said we're gonna take this player from the transfer portal, pay him a little bit, try to put him into the system. He doesn't work. $700,000 for a player in a transfer portal in Oregon, it's money, but it's not that much money. This is the equivalent to me of a free agent that signs with another team in the NFL and doesn't work out and ends up becoming a free agent again or getting moved to another team after that, where he might do, it might be a better situation for him. But I think what in this particular case, he may not be good enough because the Oregon program is so deep that he just may not be good enough. But to your point, 700K is 700K. He's 21 years old.
Dude,
if I was 21 years old and somebody offered me 700K, I would go. I don't care where it would be. I would go. So you certainly can't blame him, but he's effectively taking advantage of the equivalent of free agency in the transfer portal right now in college football.
And you know what'll happen is he'll probably leave Oregon, and guess what he'll do? He'll go either to a mid P4 school because he's probably better than he showed what he could do in the Group of 5 competition. So, okay, I'm not good enough to crack the roster at Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, but Purdue.
Hold on, Penn State maybe, but yeah.
Purdue,
right?
All those middle rung Power 5 schools, Power 4 schools, and maybe I don't get 700,000, maybe I get 500 over there. But guess what? I'm still winning, and that to me is the beauty. And it's the two sides. You got Arch Manning on one side,
right,
who's got so much money and so much pressure. And then you got this guy who's like, hey, I gave it a whirl. I did the best I could. It wasn't good enough. I'm going to collect this check. And I'm going to go somewhere next year, collect another check, get back to getting, 300 carries and 1,500 yards. Because ultimately, I'm sure his goal is to play in the NFL. So, I need to go somewhere where I can play. And guess what? If I haven't made it to the NFL, at least I've had 4 years of making probably a couple hundred at Tulane, 700 over at Oregon, maybe 500 at my next spot. And I'm here to tell you, if you haven't saved any of that and created a nest egg for yourself so that at 22 you got a degree and $300,000 or $400,000 in the bank where you can figure out what you'd like to do in life, then that's your problem and your fault.
Right. So he's like a lot of the athletes in college football now. they have tremendous opportunities from a financial point of view today that they never had, except for certain schools, which I'm sure paid athletes under the table. But now they
Well,
can do it. Now they can do it legally,
right.
and this is a tremendous opportunity for this guy. But he will ultimately move to the level of his competition where he can actually play. But in the
Yeah.
process, he's going to collect money along the way, and that's actually a good thing. That's a good thing, and it's a good thing for athletes in general because college football players should have been paid many years ago.
Not just that. I'm gonna say the last thing about that is, and I say this to all the critics about it. Why do people go to college? You go to college to learn how to make money through a profession. But the reason you go to college, ultimately, if you cut out everything else, is to increase your earning potential. How can I'm going
Mhm.
here so I can learn, so I can
Mhm.
do what? Make money doing something. And so if you're something right now is football, and that creates the nest egg for you.
Yeah, if you're we have sons who are about the same age. If your son at age 22 said, "Hey, Dad, I got this gig. By the time I graduate from college, I'm gonna make a couple million and a half dollars." I would say to him, or if it was my son, I would say to him, "You're doing that every single time because $1 million for you today is worth a ton for you 20, 30 years from now if you invest it properly."
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. My bottom line, Makai Hughes, run, young man, run to wherever you will find the dollars.
And my bottom line is the transfer portal is the equivalent of the free agent market. Take advantage of that free agent market. Take advantage of that transfer portal when you can.
Now, I got a question for you. What's up with Ohio State and Michigan trying to hold up this private equity deal?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know the story, it's actually become a really kind of layered and complex story.
Yes,
Uh,
it is.
it is the Big Ten is is has been it's been reported that the Big Ten wants to get private capital, private equity to invest in the Big Ten Conference. And what they're going to do is they're not going to invest in the universities or the teams directly. They're essentially going to invest in the equivalent of like a commercial enterprise, something like I think it's even called Big Ten Enterprises. And private money, private equity would be able to invest in that. This is something totally new. The NFL, for example, just in the last year or two, allowed private equity to invest in NFL teams. So you've got that happening. Ohio State and Michigan, which are the two biggest brands, arguably, in the conference, aren't necessarily on board yet, according to the reporting. That's number one. The second thing that I think is fascinating is that there is a bill that's being introduced to block something like this from happening. Now, whether that bill actually goes through, we don't know. And the third thing is, it has been reported by I believe it was Sportico that CalPERS is interested in investing in this, and CalPERS is the big union, teachers union in California. So there's a huge pension fund in California that CalPERS invests lots and lots of money in it. It's huge. Every major institutional investor wants to get some CalPERS money because it's so enormous. But now there's
Right.
a rumor that CalPERS may be interested in investing in this.
Okay,
So,
what's the why would Ohio State and Michigan want them to why would they be on board with it if they were? They're not, but
well,
why should they be on board with it?
right. So Ohio State and Michigan, again, my read of that would be that they feel that they have a disproportionate value in the Big Ten, and therefore they should get a disproportionate value of the
Whatever the
investment.
money is.
Yeah, or whatever it is. So it's not dissimilar to how the college football playoff is essentially being run by the Big Ten and the SEC, who want to make sure that they have a disproportionate say in what's happening there, and ultimately have a disproportionate uh, share of all the proceeds and money that's around the college football playoff. That's what I believe was happening with Ohio State and Michigan in this case. Now, why would they do it?
Yeah.
Because this is a way to jumpstart really the birth, the genesis of what I would call college football. This to me is the final sign that college football has become the fifth major professional sport in the United States.
Wow.
you know, and that
Okay.
to me is when you attract this kind of money, when you attract smart, savvy money to this, oftentimes that is an indication that this is a sector or an area that's poised to really explode in terms of growth and to really take off. So what I would say, why should Ohio State or Michigan get involved in this? They may be at the beginning of something that could be incredibly profitable even in the medium and longer term.
Um, if you play dominoes, do you play dominoes?
I do.
See, I knew I liked you for some
Yeah.
reason. Part of playing dominoes is all money ain't good money. I put down the big five and I celebrate, and then you throw down the big six and hit me with 30. So all money ain't good money. Big Ten seems to be doing just fine without private equity money coming into the conference.
Well, yeah, the Big Ten is, the Big Ten is the new SEC. The Big Ten is, I think, has the best programs, the best funded programs. I think that they have the top teams in the Big Ten. I think are better than the top teams in the SEC. I think the SEC may still have a little bit more depth, but why would the Big Ten do it? Because Jacques, as you know, there's never enough money. There's never enough money. Could you argue that this is an indication that it's frothy at the top, that this may be the top of the market? Could you
Right?
argue that? I don't believe that, because if you look at the uh, television rights for college football, if you look at the programs and television rights dominate the revenue generation for sports in general. Television rights, is the big revenue generator. And the big revenue generators in the Big Ten that get the big viewership are Ohio State and Michigan.
Right.
And so they know that they are disproportionately driving the value of the Big Ten conference. That's really what's happening here. I think it's sort of that simple.
All right. So what are we gonna do with all this extra money? Whatever we want to.
Well, you would hope it would go to education,
Well, it
of
ain't
these
going
schools.
there.
It's not. We know we know it's not. Yeah, I think that's ultimately what the question is. But this is why I think this is becoming a professional sport, because if I'm investing in the Big Ten enterprises, I'm looking for a return for me if I'm an
Well,
investor.
yeah.
Yeah. I want to make lots of money over the next
I
X
guess
number of
that's what I'm
years.
saying. Like once you let private equity in, it kind of changes the whole structure because even then, like I would say from a lay perspective, if you're Ohio State and you're Michigan, right now you run things. Whatever we want to do, we do it. Kind of like me and you. But if you let private equity in, it's like one of those situations where you look up and they go, you know what? We voted you out the conference. And you're like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
It's
It's
because you're no longer in charge.
Yeah, it's interesting the way the deal's structured, at least, or the way the deal is being contemplated of being structured, is that it only focuses on the commercial enterprises, so that the commercial side of it, so that the actual kind of guts of the conference, the schools and everything are supposedly separate from it. So theoretically, that won't happen.
But
But
you know,
you
man,
and I both know that.
once they get their
Yeah,
tentacles
that's
in there,
right.
man, they go everywhere. It's like Alien
Right,
on that ship.
right.
I would
Yeah,
never do it.
yeah. But to me, it really speaks to. I mean, just think about what we've talked about today. We've talked about players getting paid. We've talked about the private capital, private equity potentially going into college football.
Right?
Uh,
We're about to talk about Dak Prescott's money.
yeah, in a minute. I mean, that's the most important thing to talk about. And uh, and it really, to me, I just, I have my notes here. It's, to me, this is like everything in today's society, that in everything today, everything moves at a pace. Change happens so much more rapidly today than it did
Bro,
5 years ago or 10 years ago. And what's happening in college football, it's changing rapidly to becoming essentially a professional sport at warp speed. And this, to me, is one of the major indications that it may have already crossed that line and is now a professional sport.
I think that's the biggest takeaway, man, is that you're growing so well that you've now got private equity firms, and this ain't gonna be the first one because you know what happens now.
Oh,
As soon as the Big Ten acquiesces or agrees or whatever, somebody's going to the SEC, and then the ACC. I mean, it's just going to be a trickle down effect.
yeah. And the thing is, though, that the Big Ten and the SEC are the marquee products. They'll have much more leverage with potential investors than the ACC will, or the Big 12 will, or whatever's left of the Pac-10 will. And so that those deals, and again, we're speculating, but if those deals do come down the pike, as you suggest, I think those deals will be less and less favorable depending on the strength of the conference. So if I'm a weaker conference, my deal is going to be less favorable.
Oh, no doubt. But
Yeah.
they're still going to have a deal.
They're still going to have a deal because
there's
money.
A better deal, but it's going to have a deal.
Yeah.
Now, let me see if this is a segue to the same thing.
Well,
does this lead to the breakup of conferences?
Do you I think like the Big Ten would split into two conferences?
No, there are no conferences, just a bunch of super teams. Or
So
does this help keep the conference's integrity?
Well, what I think, again, I have this theory that college football is becoming a professional sport,
Right.
and that the NFC is the Big Ten and the AFC is the SEC. And
Right.
that's really what's happening. And I think what you're going to end up happening is you're going to have two conferences that are essentially going to dominate college football, and
Right.
which is happening already.
Which
and
is
I think
wild because there was just one conference doing it. It was the SEC. And I think, and maybe we'll talk about it on another show, how the Big Ten all of a sudden evolved into equals. Because it wasn't like that way for 20 years.
You know
or
why?
15 years.
You know why?
Why?
NIL. The Big Ten, the size of the Big Ten schools and the amount of boosters and the amount of money that these schools have are far greater than that of the Alabamas of the world, the Auburns of the world. And that's why you see these big schools or schools that are very well, schools that have a large
Texas and Texas A&M.
Texas Tech. Look at the
Yes.
Look at the top 10. Texas Tech is in the top 10.
Yeah.
And Texas Tech's in the top 10 purely because of money. So what happened is that the SEC, all the talent went to the SEC just because it was the best conference to go to, and a lot of the talent was there, and you would get drafted in the NFL. Now all the talent is going where the money is, and the money is with the large Big Ten schools a lot more than they are with the traditional SEC powers. That's a function of the alumni. It's a function of the size of the schools. It's just a function of the amount of money that these schools have to offer players in NIL.
Bottom line, I don't want no private equity in my sports league. Stay away from it. All money ain't good money. Ohio State, Michigan. Are you listening?
My bottom line, and I've said it before, is college football has officially become a professional sport, and it's only going to become more and more professional, and it's such a rapid change. It's hard to imagine that this is where we are just compared to 3 years ago.
Yeah. I was tooling around Twitter. You notice I seem to be doing that a lot.
Yeah. Lots of free time on your hand, I guess.
No. It's part of the job. You know what's going on. And I got to tell you, I like looking at these charts to talk about the world's highest paid athletes. And not because I'm a soccer guy. And most of the time, there's a soccer guy on top, whether it's Messi or Ronaldo or, whomever. Sometimes you might find a tennis player up there.
Yeah.
Imagine my shock when I looked at the list of the world's highest paid athletes, and Dakota Rain Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys was number 4.
Just like his jersey number. Yeah.
Dude, I never put those two things together.
Yeah.
4 and 4.
There you go.
At 137 million. Real quick, number 1, Cristiano Ronaldo, soccer player, 275. Steph Curry, even though his wife is mad, and didn't want to have kids and thought she could do better. He's at 156. The boxer, the heavyweight champ, I think. Heavyweight
Tyson
fighting.
Fury.
Yeah, heavyweight fighting ain't what it used to be.
It,
146 million. I don't know if that's pounds or dollars. Just like I don't know if Ronaldo is euros.
it's dollars. I looked at the same chart. It's all dollars. Yeah.
And Messi is up there at number 5. And just for poop and giggles, LeBron James, King James, number 6 at 133 million. But I gotta tell you, Dak Prescott, because what happens is, and what did we talk about a couple weeks ago? NFL players have the worst union, they have the worst contracts. So to find an NFL player on here is shocking. Matter of fact, on the top 20, there's another two. There's actually 3 more football players, and they're all surprise, quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson, the dirty man, the nasty man, is number 15.
Right.
Jordan Love, Green Bay Packers quarterback, number 19.
Jordan Love is 19?
83 million because he just signed his deal, got a big signing bonus.
Well, but then, yeah.
And then Jared Goff is number 20 at 80 million.
But the interesting thing about Dak is that he is I think he's still the highest paid player in football, right?
Yes, $60 million a year.
So he's the highest paid, but he's also on the most valuable franchise in the NFL by far.
Right.
And the Dallas Cowboys, although they've been a lot better ever since you and I were texting the other day, and we thought, boy, I texted you. I remember the Cowboys are a really hard watch. The second I texted that, they got good. So from there,
well, at least the Cowboys got fun.
But the Cowboys are such a huge brand. They attract a huge television audience. It is it's one of the most talked about franchises, one of the most talked about sports teams in the country. He's able to because of that. He's been very, very smart, or his team's been very smart to get him a lot of endorsements, a lot of commercials, a lot of things like that, and he's been able to parlay that into a lot of into a lot of money.
Oh, he's Mr. Pitchman, bro, and he's and what's interesting is he doesn't do very much local pitch. His pitch is all national pitch, national campaigns,
right?
And the other thing you talked about, not only is it his play and his performance, not only is it being the quarterback of the Cowboys, the most valuable and visible franchise, but part of the reason of the visibility is they get what? All those marquee Sunday night games, Monday night games, Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day. They're on in front of the country all the time. So when he's pitching your product, you don't have to worry about whether people are going to see him, whether people are going to associate with his brand.
Right.
You already know that they're going to see him all the time. And that just drives his price up. And he's also what? He's got a great personality, and he's never going to do anything remotely or say anything remotely controversial to affect the brand.
I think that's an incredibly important point. The other thing too is that if he was Bryce, if he had the first 3 years that Bryce Young has had during his first 3 years, Bryce Young would be the most vilified, talked about, discussed quarterback in the NFL because he was playing on the Cowboys. Now there's, you might hear a little talk about Bryce Young. He's a number 1 pick. Hasn't performed up to his expectations. Or even look at Trevor Lawrence last night. He's kind of hidden in the Jacksonville franchise in a similar way. But Dak is on this franchise, and to your point, he's handled that incredibly well. In fact, I think he's almost ideal for this because he appears to be pretty low in terms of an ego for a quarterback. He can live with your boy Jerry Jones, craziness and everything that goes on there. And so he's been really able to handle it. And most of all, he's actually, watching him this year, he's a lot better than I sort of gave him credit for the last few years. He's a very, very good player.
Well, number one, he's playing well this year because, and we've debated this a lot locally in Dallas, is if you can play long enough and you're good enough, you got to be good enough. It just can't be longevity. If you can play long enough and you're good enough, you can get to the point where you have the answers to the test, which
Mm-hmm.
means no matter what defense they throw out there, you've seen it. You've run your offense enough that you go, oh, y'all are going to do this, then this is my play to beat that. And then you're good enough that you can execute it. And so he's at that point now where you can't fool him. And so now it's just a matter of if he has enough time, he's gotten them in the right play, and then it's whether the other guys on the offense can execute the play, catch the ball when it's thrown,
Right.
block the guy in front of you, because he's going to put you in the right play.
But
And
what's interesting about that is that he still hasn't been able to perform well in the playoffs. You
well,
know,
no, this is true. But here's the other thing: if we're going down that road, he hasn't performed at the playoffs where he's had the answers to the test.
but,
You know what I'm saying? He
okay.
So if you just now at the point of your career where you have the answers to the test, well, he hasn't played. This version of Dak has not played in the playoffs yet, and quiet as kept. I don't know if this version of Dak will get to the playoffs because his team is real shaky, and they've got a bad defense, and I don't know that you can outscore people and get to the playoffs. And they've got a difficult schedule because they've got the AFC West and the NFC North. So there's
If
one
they
other. Go ahead.
No, if they do, sorry, if they do get to the playoffs, though,
Well, yeah,
I think it's going to be a referendum on him because I think he's seen not sort of in the same way that James Harden. James Harden's sort of the poster child for people who have great regular seasons and perform poorly in the playoffs for whatever reason. Um, I think Dak has this year. Dak will have. It's kind of kind of a free pass this year because no one thought the team was going to be any good. If he
right.
takes him to the playoffs, that is will far exceeded most expectations. Once he gets there, though, I think he's got to perform like he does in the regular season.
No, I don't think there's any doubt about that. The knock on the Cowboys is not just that. None of their best players have played their best football in the playoffs. That's one of the reasons why they've had great regular seasons and faulted in the playoffs. But what did I say earlier? That the playoff gets the girls, the money, the glory, and they get the blame. Um, Another thing that makes Dak so marketable, that makes people love him in terms of brands, is what? He's got a phenomenal story.
He does.
Mom died of cancer his sophomore year at Mississippi State, and so everything he does is, as he will tell you, is with her in mind. Have I done things today to make her proud that I'm her son? And so he's got a living testament that and a story and a living story because it never ends. He mentions it all the time. He talks about it all the time. On his wristbands every game, faith, fight, finish every game because that's keeping his mother close. And then he also had a brother who died from suicide. And instead of hiding it, he came out and said, hey, if you're going through something, let somebody know. My brother didn't let anybody know and took his life. I don't want anybody else to deal with that. And so he's got the tragedy of his mom dying from cancer. He's got his brother's suicide. And instead of hiding from it, he embraced it and said, this was a very painful thing for me. Let me use that pain to help somebody else. And he does it in an authentic way. And so when you do all of that, it draws people to you. And I don't think we've talked about him a couple of times, man. He's a phenomenal leader. One of the reasons he's a phenomenal leader, uh, I'm not sure, I can't remember if he minored in it or he got a master's in it, but it was in workforce, whatever, in basically how to run a company,
Well, yeah,
you know?
okay.
And so all the things he does as a leader are things you would do if you were a boss running a company. Like I like to tell, and maybe I've told you this or somebody else, even as a rookie, he used to keep a big bag of candy in his little miniature candy, chocolate candy in his locker. And he would just pop up, man, and start running around the locker room and throw the bag open. Hey, Pink, you want some? And he would just go around the locker room to everybody. And you're like, the joy that puts on a guy's face, just the fact
Of
that you'd
course.
offered him a
Yeah.
couple pieces of candy. I mean, really, we're talking about a $5 bag of candy. But it's
It
the
makes
fact that you just brighten somebody's day. And
it,
they went, and I tell people that's why Dak Prescott could be a rookie and take 10-year veteran Tony Romo's job out for injury and keep it, and nobody say a word. Nobody be like, hey, that's unfair. Romo deserves to start. It was his job. He's done all this for us. Nobody said a word. Not Jason Garrett, who gave the job to Dak. Not Jason Witten, Romo's best buddy. Nobody said a word because Dak was that kind of leader. And that's why he gets paid right now.
Right, exactly. And he becomes when you're a leader, when you have that backstory, when you are able to handle yourself incredibly professionally and extraordinarily eloquently in front of pretty aggressive media from time to time, national media in general. He's able to handle all of that. He becomes, to your point, a very, very marketable guy. And you put that on top of his salary, you see a lot of companies will entrust their brand to somebody like Dak Prescott, and it's often going to be blue chip, large companies that actually will have potential reputation issues at stake if they do hire a spokesperson or if they do hire somebody to be the face of it. So it makes, when you look at it initially, you think Dak Prescott's number 4, and then you start to think, well, he's the highest paid player in the NFL. He's got this incredible backstory. He's an incredibly good leader, as you point out. He is incredibly, very, very strong in front of the mic, in front of the press, in front of the media. He's got everything that you would probably want in a professional athlete. And oh, by the way, he's at the most valuable franchise in the country. So it does make sense that he's number 4, but you have to think about it a little bit.
No, and bottom line is, be like Dak. You should be like Mike. Now you need to be like Dak because he checks all the boxes.
I think my bottom line is it's refreshing and great to see good people get paid big money, and Dak is one of those good people.
I think your boy would like to one day be one of those good people.
You're talking about well. We'll discuss. We'll discuss where the steps that you have to take. It's going to be a long-term process, I think. But
and now it's time for our favorite part of the show, the little teeny tiny part of the show that we devote to the alma mater.
Go Bucks!
Go Bucks! Ohio State.
Good weekend. That was a good win.
It was a great win. It was a good win. But I was watching the game Sunday, the expansion bowl between Tampa and Seattle, and I really enjoyed the throwback uniform. I may be the only person in the world who loved those Bucks uniforms. I loved them when they were in the moment, and I was kind of sad to see them go, even though I was down with the new look. I thought the new look was cool too, but the creamsicles, man, let's be real. We don't know if the pirate was gay or not. But it was okay that they were bold enough to put the pirate on there.
Uh-huh.
And it doesn't matter if he was gay or not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, in 1976, to put that pirate on your helmet, that took guts. That took chutzpah. That took balls.
But even better, you remember the old stadium? They had that ship or that boat in the back.
Yeah,
that was, it was fantastic. It was just fantastic.
But I was watching the game because Emeka Egbuka was playing, and he's right now hands-on rookie of the year. There's no rookie right now playing better than him. And then Jackson Smith and Jigba, who is from Dallas, suburban Dallas, 30 miles east of Dallas, and who I kind of heard his name. But my radio show host in Dallas, because I did a daily radio show in Dallas for 4 years, my host on that show went to the same high school as Jackson. So he's telling me about this receiver. And that team has always been 5-5. And so I'm like, yeah, okay, dog, whatever. No, we got this great receiver. Okay, dog, whatever. I heard he's committed to Ohio State. Well, let me see what he's all about. And I'll never forget, man. I had never seen him play. I just heard about him. He's got these great stats. And I went out to AT&T Stadium, me and my boy, because they were playing Allen High School. Allen is about 30 miles north of Dallas. It's the school where Kyler Murray went to high school and never lost a game.
Mm-hmm.
Like 42-0, 3 state championships at the highest level of Texas high school
Yeah,
football.
he's widely considered to be the best high school player in history.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
how I want, but that's the school they were playing.
yeah.
So this is not like some Rudy Poo program. No, they're playing one of the big boys. Jackson Smith and Jigba has like 150 yards and 5 touchdowns in the first half.
Wow, in the first half. Wow,
And some and he made a couple
it's
catches.
like the bowl game against Utah where he had like
It was
347
just
yards.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And he made a couple catches, and you're just like, oh my God. I can't wait for him to put on the Scarlet and Gray now. But I was watching him. He ended up in the game Sunday with 8 for 132 and a touchdown. Ibuka 7-163 in the touchdown. And that sparked the conversation. Is Ohio State surpassed LSU as wide receiver U?
No doubt. It's not even close now.
Oh, it's not even close.
I don't think it's that close. I think that it's, if you're asking me today and looking to the future, without a doubt. Remember, Emeka Egbuka was the number 2 receiver on Ohio State last year. The number 2 guy. He was never the number 1 guy at Ohio State.
Ever.
Right. Which is, and he's going to win Rookie of the Year. And when he was coming out into the draft this year, he was one of those like kind of like hidden gems that was out there. He was getting talked up the entire draft. I thought he was going to go a little bit higher, but he will win rookie. He will certainly win Offensive Rookie of the Year for sure.
I mean, he's been playing out of his mind.
No,
I mean, he's making a great
crazy.
catch. I mean, he's phenomenal right now.
But to answer your question, I mean, we were talking about this. You look at it. You've got Jackson Smith and Jigba. You've got Marvin Harrison, who I think is just he's in a bad place right now, but he's still an incredibly good receiver. You've got Jackson Smith and Jigba, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson for the Jets, and then you've got Terry McLaurin. We were talking about Terry McLaurin just a little while ago. Those are great players, and you're looking at next year probably Carnell Tate, or probably be a first-round pick. Maybe Brandon Innes will be maybe a second-round pick. And then the year after that, Jeremiah Smith will probably be the number 1 pick in the draft. So if you look to see where things are now and where wide receiver view is, it's Ohio State. There's no question about it in my mind.
Well, I don't know, man. If you look at LSU, they got Jordan Jefferson. Justin Jefferson, not his brother. They got Justin Jefferson. They got Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
Those are arguably the top 2 receivers in the league. So, and then they got Malik Neighbors.
Malik Neighbors Malik Neighbors is a ball.
So maybe they've got 1 and 2, and then we've got 3, 4, 5, 6.
Well, what's interesting, it's kind of the inverse of how the SEC. The SEC has a deep conference.
Right.
But the Big Ten is really, really top heavy. So LSU's receivers are really top. They're at the top.
Right.
But Ohio State's are much, much deeper.
Now, real talk, I was saying, and I was not alone, because I saw several people on Twitter say the same thing, and I saw somebody on TV put it out there. I can't remember who, but like, if you're Brian Hartline and you're Ryan Day, your whole recruiting pitch this week, you just sent a cut up video to all the top receivers in the country and said, this took place on Sunday. And you just show those guys going back and forth, making plays, all your guys, because Marvin Harrison had a terrific 40-yard touchdown catch. And because I was watching the Cowboys and the Jets, Garrett Wilson scored on about a 10-yard touchdown pass, but it was a hell of a touchdown because he broke a tackle at like the 2, had 2 people grabbing on him, and lunged into the end zone while they were down 30-3. And what it says is, that's how bad I wanted to get to the end zone, even though we're getting our tails kicked in this particular game. And it was a terrific play. And so Ohio State's got a recruit from South Lake Carroll, which is one of the top programs in the country. And at some point, I'm going to watch him play. This probably won't be to the playoffs, so I can watch him against the best competition. But he's a 4-star receiver, and I'm interested to see him because he's a white guy. Not that white guys can't play receiver, but I want to, and I'm not going to label him as, oh, he must be a tremendous route runner. Um, I want to see him play because that's
uh,
they've been a great program for 20 years, and so they've put they don't necessarily put a lot of guys in the NFL. They put a lot of guys in college. Chase Daniel was their quarterback at one point,
mm, mm, mm.
um, and so they put out the quarterback at Georgia Tech is from their school. So they put out a lot of quarterback. Matter of fact, the quarterback at Georgia Tech played against my son's team in the playoffs in a great game in which we prevailed. But
Which is why he's at Georgia Tech. Although actually Georgia Tech's unbeaten this year.
no,
Yeah,
and
Georgia Tech's
he's a
good this
big
year.
reason why
Yeah,
because he's
yeah.
like a 6'7" quarterback.
Hmm.
He's really tall, but he can run.
Hmm.
But anyway, I'm interested to go watch him play. He became their all-time leading receiver the other day, which again is a big deal because they've been running a four wide, one back passing offense before it became fashionable. They've been doing it for 20 years or whatever.
And at the high school level, that's so they must have
Oh
had.
no, and it's a new money high school, meaning it's one of the richest zip codes in the Dallas Fort Worth area,
I see.
but it's new money. It's not
Right.
old money.
Right.
That's the startup people, all their money.
Hmm.
But that's what's out there, and they do very well. And so I'm interested to go watch him play. But it's cool to have that stamp as like Penn State used to be linebacker U,
Hmm.
USC used to be running back U.
Hmm.
I don't think there's any doubt really that Ohio State's just taking over, and I think Ryan Day deserves a lot of credit. Heartline too, one for being able to develop, and two, trying to figure out in today's college world how to keep all them diva receivers happy.
Well, but here's what's interesting is that yes, there's a lot of diva receivers. The Ohio State players aren't diva receivers. You
You
know,
might be right.
the only one who's kind of displayed, I think, a little bit of diva is Terry McLaurin, but I don't even think that's fair because Terry McLaurin just wanted to get paid.
Yeah, he was just trying to get his money.
He
Whenever
was
you
trying to
try
get
and
his
get your
money,
money,
but Terry McLaurin has
whatever.
been I mean, he was voted team captain almost immediately when he was there. He has been, the Ohio State receivers are, as you say, Garrett Wilson, tremendous,
And
player.
it might be, and I'm just speculating because I don't know. It could be that because there's a there's a tradition of we got number one receivers, we got outstanding players that at this particular school, at this particular position, it's okay to wait your turn because Marvin Harrison waited his turn and Jackson Smith and Jigba waited his turn. And, all these guys like Jackson Smith was like the third receiver his freshman year playing, third or fourth receiver, getting in when he could. I think maybe he was returning punts or something. But because I think maybe there's a history of waiting, and then when you get your opportunity, then it's your opportunity. Unless you're, number four, and you can force your way onto the field because you're just that good.
He's still an amazing talent, just an amazing talent. Yeah, but I do think that even he hasn't displayed that kind of diva behavior at all, and it,
No,
I don't think so. No,
not because, and you know what? Here's the real talk. I've been looking for it because, like, a couple games they haven't gotten the ball to him early, and I was wondering, like, let me just see what's up. But I haven't seen anything. It doesn't mean it hadn't happened. I just haven't seen it. And like Carnell Tate to me is a very underrated receiver. And sometimes you're like, you don't have to force it to Jeremiah Smith. You can really just throw it to Tate. And when they get tired of getting beat by Tate, who will beat them,
mhm.
then Smith will open up naturally, and you can do what you're going to do.
Yeah. Tate's
Um,
Tate's going to get chosen in the first round.
oh, there's no doubt
Yeah,
about
there's
that.
no doubt. And so he's, if you're throwing, if you're, saying let's let Tate beat us or let Jeremiah Smith beat us, it doesn't really matter because at that level, Tate is going to be, Tate's one of the best. Tate may be the second best receiver at Ohio State, but he might be like the eighth best receiver in the country.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's a really interesting point. You brought it up earlier. I think there's a lot in the development as you point out, that Hartline is developing him in a certain way, because you don't see you see all the Ohio State receivers, and again, we're sounding like homers, I know, but
We
you're
are.
seeing and we are but the Ohio State receivers are fundamentally sound, most of them. You don't see them, running undisciplined routes. You see them, rolling with the quarterback when the quarterback's out of the pocket, all of that. So they're very disciplined players. So I think the development at Ohio State's been very good.
And it could be because Hartline played in the league several
Yeah,
years, but he was not a guy who got by on pure talent. And so he had to do all those things. And so, which is different than if somebody who's been a superstar is coaching you and they go, well, how come you just can't do this? Well, dude, that's because you were that guy
right,
and I'm not. And
right.
because Hartline was just a really good receiver, he may be able to teach them, in a way that other people can't.
Yeah, and he's also got credibility when he talks about it because he's
Oh,
done it at the highest level.
yeah.
And he's done it at the highest level. Personally, he's developed a ton of receivers before, if I was a receiver right now, absolutely I would go to Ohio State because you're in the spotlight, you probably have the best coaching, and there's a history of receivers, almost every single one of them now, it seems like, making it into the NFL.
Yeah.
So he got this weekend. Buckeyes
Uh,
in Illinois.
you know, obviously, I think Ohio State wins. It's just a question of how close it is. I would. I'm going out on a limb here. I will say Ohio State 31-20. At some point, somebody's going to score a touchdown or two. Illinois is a good team, and I'm not. I think we've talked about this before. I'm not a guy who requires 56-0 wins every week. I like for you to be tested so that when you start playing good teams in the playoff, like, oh my God, we've never been behind before. We've never been down 10-0. We've never been down in the second half. What are we going to do? I like for them to be tested, and so we'll see. I got a lot of respect for Illinois, even though they got blown out by Indiana.
Mhm.
They'll be where's that game at?
It's at Champaign
Yeah, that's
Arena.
what I thought.
Yeah. So
Listen,
look, I think that's a big point is that uh, they got blown out by Indiana. It's in Champaign. This is going to clearly be the biggest game on their schedule by far for the
right?
rest of this season. Um, I think they're going to play him tough. I really do. They have an experienced quarterback who's not great, but he's experienced and he's good, and he can push the ball downfield. He can put up some numbers. I think it's going to be a lot closer than many might think, but I think Ohio State will ultimately pull away at the end, and I think they'll win. Yeah, I was going to say very similar to you. I was going to say maybe 35-21, but I do think Illinois is going to be the first team that scores more than 5 points a game against Ohio
Yeah,
State. Yeah.
that's what I think.
Yeah.
All right. So, hey, please rate and go ahead and give us those 5 stars. But first, you got to subscribe and then leave us a review. We'd appreciate that. For Jeremy Pink, I'm Jean-Jacques Taylor. This has been the Bottom Line on Sports. Until we chat again, watch your money and have a great week.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.